Hi everyone, yes. So welcome to an amazing new afternoon, right? And with the new afternoon, we remind ourselves that there's something new in our seasons. And today, with this preparation of our season's podcast edition, we want to remind ourselves today of our generation's requirement, right? We want to remind ourselves today of that requirement of our generation to understand and to allow themselves a complete seasons. And with our seasons edition today, we want to focus on that we want to represent in a season, and we want to focus on that is represented us in our seasons. It is that many times we want to represent that we want in our seasons. And it is that as a generation, we have learned that life gives us that life allows us in our seasons. And while we focus today on that discussion, while we prepare and while we want to invite and have everyone in our preparation room, we want to have everyone understand the reaction you in your season. And the reaction you in your season is that when you want this, you learn to accept that the completeness of this is that we are being granted. And with understanding that, we are reminded of the birth womb, the waterness, the birth right, that requirement to accept our seasons the way our seasons allows us to be fine through seasons. That is what we want to discuss with our preparation today. We want to discuss our reactions that sometimes have us want what we want. We have a problem on social media with a generation of people that want what they want. We have a problem today on social media with vloggers and bloggers that want to tune into your room because they want what they want in their seasons. We have a problem today with social media business owners that own social media pages, and the education in our generation is required and current, and someone else wants what they want. And when we learn that the aggression has caused our generation to lose out on so much opportunities, has caused many human beings on earth to lose out on so much opportunities because I want what I want, the opportunity was not granted everyone because of the attitude of I want what I want. And today in this discussion, I want to focus on something that I've mentioned constantly on my social media pages, right? Your attitude, your reaction, and your requirement to have that is the character you that represents that everyone else learns from, and that is not the I want what I want attitude in season. And with the I want what I want attitude in season, we have educated on our seasons Facebook, on our seasons discussions, right? And on our podcast of that is the you that allow yourself in your season. And we have constantly reminded the readers that is wanting what they want in season, that this is where we find ourselves at in the education in our generation, that this is what our generation requires, and that in Rabia Elise's social media pages, it is not I want what I want. It is this is Rabia Elise, this is the opportunity, the choices, the seasons that life gives us, and this is the education in its completeness, in all its colors, in all that some people want to view in sometimes. Some people want to attend those videos sometimes, and other people want to hide away the attitude of I want what I want. We have learned that our world today find themselves in argument constantly because of that. That is the attitude that some people want to create a character in this world. That the character need to look in a certain way because of a world that wants to exclude half of its people out because they only want to accept I want what I want attitudes in our generation. Many people have learned that I want what I want attitudes in our generation is that makes you the stronger you, that makes you the firmer you, that educates that you are parenting right, when in actual fact it is that are depriving one the other another opportunity to also be part of what everyone was birthed to be part of. And therefore, that reaction that our generation wants to hold on to, it's like they don't want to let loose. It's like they don't want to let go. It's like they are aggressing through arguments in meetings. That in our houses we don't realize it, but when we learn the speeds that are being fed through our social media pages, the YouTube videos that are fed through your cell phones. When you switch those YouTube videos on, then you can learn, you look at a generation that is abused, that is manipulated, that is aggressed with one another because of the requirement of I want what I want attitude that wants to create exactly that many generations have walked away from. Many generations have learned to step away from that. Many generations have learned to ignore that. Many generations have learned to move on that pace. And the world today looks like an abusive world where half of our generation, I can't not remind ourselves of how the world are looking and how half of humanity are abused in this world because of the I want what I want attitudes. I can't even not mention it on any of my discussions that countries are in poverty, that households are deprived, that some people only on a day receive a glass of water and then they have to say thank you to that because of attitudes today that comes through our YouTube pages of people that want what they want. People that want to, you can say yes, you can call them show-offs, you can call them depriving the one the other, you can call them abusive to households, because when you view the programs, you learn that they are actually there to aggress, they are actually there to be firm, that they hold on to that attitude of depriving the one the other and of only wanting what they want in their seasons. We learn that parliamentary leaders today can't even make decisions to fix countries, to fix the state of this world, because of people in this world that wants to hold on, that wants to deprive the other, that causes other countries to sit in war, that causes other countries to sit in poverty, that causes other countries to sit in abuse, that causes women abuse, women abduction, that causes women abuse on a daily basis, that causes children's kidnappings. I've mentioned earlier loudly in my house that children kids, if y'all know that your parents are doing these YouTube videos to aggress other viewers, then do not share in those aggressions, because every YouTube video that is aggressive to the viewer that looks at it is another child in this world that are being abused, is another child in this world that are being kidnapped, is another African child that might be kidnapped because of the reactions of your parents on social media. If your parents are doing the video to educate households, then that's good. But if y'all know that your parents are doing this to tell y'all to abuse other households and to tell y'all to go on and mock other households that are in poverty, then do not mock while y'all are with your parents on these videos. And that's something that I tell to everyone who listens, into parents who even in this day and hour are even aggressing the world with having their children to save videos around the world. There are sometimes abusive to people in poverty. There are sometimes abusive to people that find themselves in war arguments. There are sometimes abusive to people who are even in war today in this generation and who even can't find their way out of these discussions and out of these arguments that are relating in so much abuses on mankind because of certain families and households that want what they want. I'm reminding the African nationality of people that I've mentioned this before. America said last week on another video that they have yet so much to fix in their country, right? And I mentioned my family name, Delaware City. It's mentioned there in America, and I know our family name there in Montana, where we are from, Wolseley, South Africa, where the Sigilas are from. I've learned that the parents went to go and educate, and I've learned that manipulation was also in the room. I've learned that the fairness of our generation of leaders that are family and that have intermarried with that is the education, the family requirement to educate in our generation, that we should really find ourselves continuing to educate. And when people interfere, and when people want to interfere in what we are doing and how we educate in our seasons, things we should be firm to not allow ourselves to have part in that is abusive to our generation in general. We are families that came from Africa. We are families that have intermarried. We are families that have European family background. Yes, we believe there's Chinese familyness also in our families. And we amazingly are in the education season of having to learn that we are not going to allow ourselves to be part of the abusers when our families have worked very hard, and that many of us don't realize, and our families have traveled very hard to educate the world on the importance of not abusing one another. You must know how painful it is for someone who came out of apartheid abusers to now go and do the same to another African person, right? So we're talking directly today also, and we want to also focus on the Africanness of our education season, and we want to focus on the birthright of our education season, and our right to educate in our current experiences, and in where we are born from, and not what we want to have say in our discussions, but really what's required to say, the required you in your season, the requirement for you to allow yourself to give an opportunity and an opinion that is not going to be abusive to the other. And so often we want opportunities only for ourselves, right? And we want to hold on to opportunities only for ourselves. And because of the fact that we want to hold on to opportunities so much, we need to allow ourselves to learn to listen to that. That is what is happening in this world. That is what does the world require mankind to do. That is what education is mankind requiring in the season. It is not that Facebook people or Instagram people is saying that they are listening to Rabia. No, because many of them are listening, and television stations are implementing the processes, but they hide behind the I want what they want attitudes, because they want to hold it onto themselves to say that they have done this amazing thing. They go on Vogue's pages, they view the work, they hide what they have viewed, and they amazingly educate from what Vogue is educating and from what Rabia Elise is educating on our social pages. And nowhere on social media it appears that they have viewed, nowhere on social media it appears that they appreciate that is the education that they have received from Rabia Elise's room. Because of that, they want to aggress the world, right? Because they've learned that Rabia's family might be a family that might be educating somewhere in the world, and now they are depriving Rabia Elise, who's also now part of the family, of really having that opportunity to really educate where it's also required, with where Rabia was also birthed in, that to educate at. And it is therefore that we say we do not allow ourselves to be aggressed by the education and by so much that mankind are being deprived of, and so much people that are being silenced out because of I want what I want attitudes, but we allow ourselves to listen and to give an opportunity of choice to someone else, because we learn to listen to maybe there's something else in all of this that we are learning and that we are experiencing, right? And that we are having to listen to that is happening in countries today around the world. Maybe there's that is an opportunity for someone else that listens to Rabia Elise, that exactly finds themselves in the exact seat, and that can exactly educate where they are at, look at the circumstances, and listen to what has happened, listen to understanding their season, and exactly be that is the you required in your season. It is so oftentimes we learn to give that opportunity to someone else, but the you required in your season is that learns that the opportunity is for everyone, and that's where we want to have our podcast focus on, that the you required in your season is the opportunity that is for everyone. mentioned the opportunity that is for everyone. I've mentioned a few months ago, like we have our discussions, right? And don't be bothered with the amazingness of the seasons, because such is our seasons. And I just want to mention something quickly. I've mentioned a few months on one of the live stream videos that I've made, that when Rabia receives, right? So I had the Vogue magazine, and the Vogue magazine was published, and when a Vogue magazine was published, then Meghan Markle receives a deal, and it pops up on my phone. You know, when people tell you, and when people want to grace you, and when someone bought the magazine, and the magazine cost $13, and thank you for Team Xerox. I think they are also a Rico technical team, or maybe someone that just bought the magazine. And I believe that when the person bought the magazine, then the message popped up on my phone, and then Meghan Markle got a deal, right? An opportunity in America. And before that, when Rabia Elise's Vogue business, when I started, and it was now during this year, and then Meghan Markle received a deal from Ariel Emanuel, right? And then it popped up on my phone again. And I'm like, now why every time when someone buys from a Vogue business, or when there's an Vogue business email coming through, then Meghan Markle appears with receiving a $50 billion deal from Ariel Emanuel, right? He's one of the amazing guys that owns the celebrity house in America, right? And when America finds themselves in poverty, and America cannot react under poverty, and Rabia learned that she grew up in South Africa in the apartheid era, where Nelson Mandela came out of prison, in the Paarl community, where Mama Anna is born from the womb of Johannesburg, where the whole situation that is Rabia's birth womb is explained to the world, and Rabia Elise are deprived of educating or giving her opinion and her experiences and the amazing education required in our generation. And Meghan Markle appears, and Meghan Markle in America receives the $50 billion deal, or whatever. I always call it the $1 billion deal, because it deprives so much people of listening what's required, because so much people have to find themselves still in America in poverty, and someone else are getting the best seat, right? The next best seat in the world. And that's not what I want us to listen to, with the opportunity that is for everyone. But that is the mentality of Rabia Elise now being the African national color, and Meghan Markle being the exact colored person in South Africa, right? And South Africa knows we love our Paarl community, and we love our birth womb. And our birth womb is exactly colored, because it's exactly the familyness that is together with the European family line, with the African family line. In the innerness of Rabia, she says, is always the coloredness of it, but no one knows it, because the seasons are sometimes so hidden. The seasons are sometimes not revealed. The seasons are sometimes a bit loud in its education, but silent to the listener who listens and who views on the seasons. And yet the sound is loud that this Meghan Markle situation works hand in hand with the Rabia Elise situation. And Rabia Elise looks at the whole situation, and you know, when you shift on your phone and you see who's talking to you, and why are these people sifting this information through, and why, when a Vogue business is busy really wanting to educate and to be permanent education, and then every time there's a message of Meghan Markle popping up, right? And I've learned that some people have decided to not have part in that is abusing mankind. And King Charles was firm in it, and he said, let Meghan Markle go and stay in America, because this whole Rabia Elise, Nelson Mandela story, he probably did not want to have part in it, right? He's standing on one of the photos a few months ago, I think it was with his birthday, and he was standing in front of the Rabia Elise's tree, and he was standing with his little stick in his hand, and like I stand on my Vogue photo that I posted in January 2022, the photo shoot that I had, right, where I'm standing with the green pants on, with a top, and I learned that King Charles, they are all in the room, they are all in the education season. And when he said, Meghan Markle, you stay in America, he really said he does not want to have any part in all of these apartheid aggressions, right? Or he might have said he really doesn't want to be the one who's now going to be visible to the world as having part in all of these Rabia Elise moments that is now including Celebrity House discussions, and that Rabia Elise's name is now so all over the world that everyone hides behind it because everyone else wants to listen in, want to steal the work, and want to run with it, and then Africa sits in poverty. And that is where we want to be at with educating, that nowhere, that I always say King Charles had good reason when he told Meghan Markle, you know what, it is time for you to leave the palace because there's also choice in the world I'm living in, right? I always say no one is dumb in this world about nothing. And I'm very firm about that. And I remember that when yes, he was celebrating his birthday, and it was on New Zealand news, and he was standing in front of a tree, like Rabia Elise standing in front of a tree, where I had the green pens on with my photo shoot. So they are really viewed in under education in our houses. And many of them has been for years. And the education for them was not only viewing in, the education for them was not only sometimes a world ruling process, but the education was sometimes the spirituality that is the education that happens in different households. And then they tune in to listen into different family lines. They Google into countries. They really learn the journey of the education of the family lines, and they try to even educate where they are at with learning the one from the other, right? That the opportunity is for everyone. And I've learned that the process went well, and our generation's education went well. And I've worked with the European team at Nublibits and at Wollambaldert, and I've learned that somewhere between all of those room discussions and between all of those that life has given our generation, someone else walked in and someone else manipulated, and it caused Africa to still sit in poverty and to still sit in abuse, and it caused the American celebrity to not be able to help the Africans because there's so much miscommunications in the world. The African American celebrity at this day can't even share in his own country a little bit of funds that is required in his country because he are daily being threatened because of the processes in the world that sometimes deprives the one, the other from where they are required to be at. And we're saying that we want to, when we educate our generation on this discussion and our season, so on our podcast this month, we really firmly want to educate with that we have started last year, that we educated on our purpose room last year, on the requirement for our generation to learn how to educate on television, the requirement for our generation to learn how to educate on radio, the requirement for our generation to learn how to educate the presenters, the listeners, the managers in business, that educates in the world to not deprive the world and to not dysfunction the world when the world are already so much dysfunctioned. It is that season that Prince Charles had to make to say that the situation includes so much and so many people are viewed in on all of these discussions, and therefore I need to request Meghan Markle to leave the palace at this circumstance because the discussion can really look like the whole Europeans that had now Rabia at Nublibits, that had Rabia at Wollambaldert, that had King Charles celebrate his birthday in front of the same tree with the steep. That is now a whole situation that looks like it was now planned by King Charles and by people who wants to rule the world, when in actual fact it was maybe a process that people wanted to get the world out of poverty. And I have learned that when Bill Gates moved out the other day, and he moved to go, and after I educated, Bill Gates moved to go and educate on social media, right? There was a live video of him where he traveled. And I've learned that he made a decision to travel to 2 countries, right? He traveled to Africa, interestingly, and he traveled to India. And it is those choices that they have to choose to decide to either fund a Rabia Elise in this world or Meghan Markle in this world. And sometimes just based on the praises that they sometimes are being pressurized at, right? And that they have the businesses, right? They have the funds, they have that is required, but they are sometimes the character that are being created of them are sometimes so much abusive to mankind that Rabia Elise has to really mention that the 50% of billionaires in this world that owns the 50% of money that belongs to certain people that are in poverty in this world, and the 50% of poverty people are really that is now not 50% billionaires in person, but the amount of pressure that the world is on a divided pace, right? The world are constantly divided between that and between that, and constantly people are trying to educate to get the world out of that. And that is oppressive, that is abusive, that is manipulative, that is disruptive, and that is so much that is chaotic to the world, right? And that is all the colors in one room, and that many generations of people could find themselves through all of those colors. And our generation are saying, no, all of these colors looks for us too all over the place, and we really can't deal with all of these colors, so we really have to stay with that. There is the colored person before the black person, the Meghan Markle before the Rabia Elise, the Bill Gates goes to India before he goes to Africa, or he goes to Africa and he goes to India. It is constantly that education, that is constantly them, that is constantly not saying it with words, but what we say, the attitude, the character, and the reaction that creates an environment that has the world sometimes question so much of who now to feed, who's now required the funds, who's now in poverty in the world, and the next best thing is the next country arguing about it. And the only thing that television, radio teams, news teams, social media teams can do is to manage businesses that can educate the world, to not abuse processes that are really sometimes the opportunity that is for everyone. And I know I can say a lot, but I have to say it, because have we not said all of what we have said, then some people wouldn't have moved out in 2020 to go and educate in Africa, right? Then Bill Gates probably wouldn't have found himself in Africa. Have Rabia not stirred the world on my Facebook page? I remember stirring them in 2020, right? January, and I remember saying to the Facebook business owner, I was very firm that year, and I think it was in 2020 or 2019, and I remember saying very firmly that these walls, I remember giving them the scripture of Daniel 5, right? Daniel, here's the book of Daniel in the Bible. And I remember saying, my Anna used to sing this song a lot those years. And it says that it was written on the wall. And everything that mankind are being judged with are written on the wall to us today is our social media pages. The Bible was written not because of being the word spiritually, but because of the implementation that creates the person, that is the attitude that is sometimes aggressing mankind, and that sometimes is not required to aggress. And therefore we always say that the church education is not that is the spiritual requirement to now go and say, I now belong to God's house. No, it is the spiritualness of mankind. It is the requirement of mankind to learn that the protective right of mankind is to abide in those principles that educates you to not abuse one another, to not steal, to not disrupt, to not manipulate, to not kill, to not harm the one the other. It is daily life educations, and our generation is even finding themselves arguing about it because of the opportunity that is now not for the people of the church, but that is for the next person. It is that the spirituality with the church education is that it's not a sign-on moment. It is that is a requirement for mankind to abide to that is protective. It is an education for mankind that has mankind not misunderstand one another. And when there's misunderstandings, then they can mutually agree to not abuse that has been the misunderstanding amongst humanity, and amongst the discussions and the many colors and the many things that is part of the amazingness of the universe. Now, always say it's not, the Muslim religion also, it's not a sign on and sign off. It is a life education in general. It is amazing that we sit with people and with a generation of people that does not want to educate properly. And that wants to hold on to only a certain part of the amazingness of the universe. We sit in our season with the generation of people that only want to see the amazingness with a little bit of people that steals it from Rabia Elise because they want to say it's a colored person, Meghan Markle, that has done this great best thing. And Rabia Elise is not even unaware today and uninformed today of the discussions between the coloreds and the South Africans, that was the black South Africans in skin color, the many arguments, the many killings that has happened in South Africa that relates to the colored skin color and to the black skin color argument and discussions in South Africa. And Rabia Elise has formed part of so many. One person at our office at Nobly Batiasi also was at the accident, and she had the black skin color also. Another family that was also in the accident when I was a little girl also was a black skin color story. A whole bunch of people, a boyfriend that I had was a black skin color story. And all of these Meghan Markle, Rabia Elise discussions is sometimes creating another argument in our generation. It is sometimes creating other apartheid issues that is sometimes so unnecessary, that can sometimes be prevented, that can sometimes not have our generation be so divided, the one amongst the one with the other, right? That can sometimes have our generation be fine, that when everyone learns that the opportunity is one opportunity, it is that Rabia Elise is not in a season where she's been educated to go and abuse the colored person. See, my friends are colored and they are amazing, and I'm colored inside. I always say, but my skin color is black, and my father is black. Mama Anna is black. Mama Martha looks more colored, but Mama Martha is also from Africa, and you can't understand the birthness of it. And it's an amazing education, and Mama Universe hides it for certain reasons. I always say you can see by Mama Anna's sister, Auntie Finn, Mama Anna's oldest brother, the coloredness of Mama Martha. Mama Martha was not even a plus size woman, right? Mama Martha was as thin as Rabia Elise. Mama Martha was as clear as the colored person, and Mama Martha was an amazing person, right? That really we didn't have an opportunity to really know Mama Martha, that is our mama's mama, and that is the birth womb, because Mama Anna looks so much totally different than Mama Martha. And then we learn that we did not in years had time to listen to our Mama Martha explaining to us where Mama Martha's part of the family came from. Mama Anna's father's side of the family, they are Umarita Demias, the Scoutworks and the Vetias, and that's Mama Anna's father's side of the family. That has Mama Anna looked a little bit more like the father's side of the family is. I remember Mama Anna had the father's blue-green eyes. Their family has got the blue-green Omarita, the Mama Ranki, the Auntie Ranki. Yes, so they have the blue-green eyes, and Mama Anna looks a lot like them. And sometimes the universe hides all of that so that we can get out of that. That is that we are wanting to transform the world into this person's first and this person's second. And the universe has hidden the fact that Mama Martha looked so much colored, and it was hidden that Mama Anna's mama and Omarita, them is so much colored about it that you can't even begin to explain to mankind that the processes that some people want to implement to deprive the black skin color person and to give it to the lighter skin color person are sometimes so confusing and disruptive, because the process of the universe is that this black skin color person, that no one can now look at the video and notice the person's honest family line and notice where the person is from, are sometimes so disruptive, like all the colors that are scattered and that are all over the place sometimes, and there can sometimes be non-abusive to mankind, you know. It is that we want to focus on those discussions in our seasons podcast this month. That is that it was never about the skin color, and that it should never be about the skin color. It should never be you listening to Rabia Elise's video because the sun is shining on Rabia Elise's video today. It should never be that you like Rabia Elise's video because you could clearly see Rabia Elise's photo in the video today. It should never be the Meghan Markle post that comes through on Rabia Elise's cell phone, that's a news notification, and that someone sent through from a newsroom to tell for a very good reason maybe, but to tell Rabia that once again, Ariel Emanuel in America has learned that Rabia Elise is maybe promoting her business, and now Meghan Markle gets the deal about whatever happens in this world, and however a billionaire gets to a billionaire. It is that whole process of creating a billionaire, yes, of creating that someone says that they have done the billionaire process for years and they want what they want in the billionaire process. It is that someone else says that this is the birthright of Rabia Elise. Her birth womb represents exactly that. That is exactly the every color, the every nationality, the every country, every mama in the universe and papa in the universe. Parents exactly from Rabia Elise's birth womb, and she was exactly born in the colored community, and not even the colored could realize that Rabia was a colored herself until the day that they met Rabia's family. Then they say, oh, you are actually a colored yourself. It is that those processes that life gives us, those opportunities, and life requires us to not disregard that is our every right to appear, our every right to represent ourselves, our every right to voice for ourselves in our seasons, our every right to learn the sound of our seasons aloud. Some people say, Rabia, you explain it in a loud way, but seasons are sometimes soft because I can't sometimes hear. And Rabia Elise educates that the sound of our seasons are loud because every season we are being introduced to it. And every season is not that mankind are unfamiliar with, but when a season comes forth, mankind has even said today to say, this is the spring season, this is the summer season, this is the winter season, and this is the autumn season. The loudness of that is that appearance that we sometimes sense within our veins, that many people can say that I can respond to that because I've learned to listen right to the education that is not only the education of a human being, but that is the every reaction of mankind and of the universe in its completeness. It is that is so loud that no one can say that they did not know that the process on earth is that the opportunity is for everyone, that everyone is granted that is the right, and that is the birth requirement to allow themselves in seasons to be fine, to allow themselves in season to appear, to allow themselves in seasons to represent, and to allow themselves in seasons to not be quieted out, to not be silenced out, to not be abused out, to not be deprived out, to not be manipulated out, and to not be disregarded what we find ourselves at through our seasons. That is where we want to be at with this preparation of our podcast that is up and coming in the month of September. And that is what we want our listeners to listen in on, and that is what we want our leaders to listen to our opinion with the experiences, with our seasons attitude, our seasons requirement to educate right. Our season's reaction is that someone else will react fine, and that is the character and the representation of the next person. Therefore, let us remind ourselves to create an opportunity that is fine for everyone. We're gonna do our season's prep talk from a Monday to a Friday, and we're not gonna every day go on with the whole stealing the whole day about it, right? We are gonna allow ourselves to only during next week to only focus on certain parts, and we want our listeners to really sift through. Yes, they don't want to give opinion, but y'all can sift through videos of opinions of things that y'all want us to also mention and to also talk about. Thank you for those teams that constantly do that. That's an amazing communication, yes, that some people hide behind the scenes and they send videos through to me, and then I'm like, oh, let me go and prepare this for this month. Let me go and educate on this one, that for this month. And that's where we want to be at, because the opportunities are for everyone. Yeah, so tomorrow when it's Friday, it's tomorrow, right? And tomorrow we're going to focus on the newness of the opportunities that are for everyone. The birthright, the newness of our generation. We're going to discuss that thoroughly during our podcast, but we want to tomorrow just discuss certain parts of how new our generation actually are. When we look at the abuses that happens in our generation, when we look at certain people that are finding themselves so much challenged because of just wanting to be fine with where they're at and wanting to be fine with their choices on a daily basis, the birth requirement for us to educate our generation that this is all the colors of mankind. And if you are being introduced to that, you are not gonna oppress someone who introduces you to all the colors in our generation, because this is what might challenge one person or the other on one day or the other. And that is what we want to discuss tomorrow with the newness of our generation. How new it really is, and the newness that sometimes is not someone who's going to stand naked necessarily in front of you. No, it is that there's so much that mankind has to discover of themselves, and there's so much that is the something new in our generation that has causes mankind to be so new in this universe. And on that day, mankind find themselves challenged the one the other because of that. There is the education of how nude we really are as human beings in the amazingness of the universe, and that requirement for us to educate, to say that we are not educated to say that we require people to wear a long dress on a daily basis. No, we educate on every color and every representation required of our generation, and we educate people to accept one another, even if the one person stands naked in front of you. The acceptance of everyone is that my church religion is not gonna oppress the naked person because of the right to be naked on this earth and the right to be part of the nakedness of mankind on this earth. And that is what we want to discuss with tomorrow's discussion, and with next week, and with prep, with our podcast prep. Rabia Elias, have an amazing time, everyone. Yes, I will next week discuss this also with y'all. But thank you all for listening in and for listening to the videos and for educating in those countries. Yes, that's amazing. Y'all educate what I educate y'all. But do not be the Meghan Markle who steals the whole bread and then Africa waits and Africa says, but the universe is like this. If Rabia receives in her bank account, then Africa receives. And mankind says, but we don't understand the process is like that. And Rabia Elise says it is exactly like that, because there's a Rabia Elise sitting here, there's a Rabia Elise in another country, there's a Rabia Elise in another country, and the one reacts with the other one. The Bible says that the one arm reacts and the other one responds to it, and such is this universe. And that's why it is important that Meghan Markle does not get the bread money when the bread money is meant to go to African people or to someone else. Meghan Markle may be receiving for her own family line, but we need to learn how to allow the opportunity for everyone, and how the universe is actually structured and requiring us to react to that. That is fine, and that is protected for everyone. Have an amazing day further.